Elections have consequences, y'all. And if you're watching anything that's happening in Florida, we know that TPS, we know that tariffs affecting the tourism industry, we know that communities are being affected. And so, if that's happening, why aren't Democrats messaging with this? These are key opportunities, and it's something that we want to talk about on Punching Up. I'm Maya May. Welcome back to the show. Today, we're going to be talking with Alex Berrios. He is the founder of Mi Vecino, an organization that started in Florida but is expanding elsewhere. And he is going to give us insights on what's happening in Florida, what's working, what's not working, and what they hope to do in other parts of the country. And hopefully, Democratic leadership is listening, because this is an important conversation that needs to be had. How are we going to message the absolute total failures of the Republican Party, including the big, beautiful bill that now Elon Musk is railing against? So these are key opportunities. There are a ton of errors on their side, so we need to take advantage of it. So with all that said, let's bring in Alex, my good friend here. Alex, how are you?
Hey, Maya, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad that you're here. We have a lot to cover. So, you are a veteran strategist and activist in Florida. Can you talk about what Mi Vecino does and what you were doing on the ground in the last election?
Oh my gosh. It feels like every single year what Mi Vecino does changes because we follow a format that I wish more campaigns, leaders in the party would follow as well, which is we learn on what happened the prior year. And so we iterate, we evolve, and we adapt. And then sometimes during the campaigns, we do that in real time. So essentially, what Mi Vecino does is we connect with some of the voters that feel left behind and disengaged by both political parties. We work with the Latino community, voters of faith. And last year, we really saw gaps in outreach to men, specifically young men, like the one that I used to be, and being susceptible to a lot of the misinformation, toxic information, and misogyny being pushed out by the right. So we started connecting directly with them. And this year we're expanding on that work.
So when you say young men like yourself, so I already know that you are a boxer, or at least have a history of boxing. You know that I love boxing. I was just in an MMA gym. I tried a new gym for the first time, and I walk in. There's like a plastic fake AR-15 in the corner that apparently we were going to be doing something with. The energy was very different. Can you talk about what that energy, that young masculine male energy is looking like, and how you are reaching those guys?
Right. I mean, this is hits super close to home for me. I actually participated in some research on men a little over a year ago, warning way ahead of the time that we were going to be losing them. A lot of young men right now, they feel shamed, judged, and policed. And we don't necessarily understand that because we don't connect with them as authentically as we should. For my own part, I grew up in poverty. It was very difficult to talk about. And through the course of participating in this research, it was really interesting to be on the other side of the table for this conversation because in-depth interviews really draw out some things that are buried deep that I personally didn't know. So starting with just my own experience, so that way you and your audience will understand something a little more about me. This is maybe the third time I've ever even shared this story. Yes, I boxed for 20 years. Yes, I've done these things, but what led me there? What led me there was growing up as a young child in South Florida, in poverty, food insecure. I'd cry myself to sleep at night, not really understanding that we were poor because children don't understand that. There's no internet, there's no reference point. I just know that my stomach hurt. There was no food. After 20 years of boxing, I've never been knocked out. It's still to this day, my father is the only person that's ever knocked me out. And I was about 7 at the time he did it. And I remember it like it was yesterday. He had a hold of one arm and I saw his fist pull back over his shoulder. And I didn't see anything else until I woke up again. And it was growing up in that environment where violence was everywhere, in the home, outside of the home, everywhere I went. Being in a gang, being on the streets because there was nowhere else to be. Boxing gave me an outlet and it literally saved my life. It gave me some place to channel that energy and it gave me purpose when life felt like it had no point and no hope. So then, as a father, I'm trying to make a better life for my son, make a life for him that I never had. And now I'm organizing as a volunteer with the Democratic Party. And I had another Democratic volunteer telling me after hearing about my background that I was savage and ignorant for participating in this sport that literally gave me this path
Hmm.
because it's so judgmental, right? This was such a judgmental approach they can't understand. And look, I get it from an abstract perspective. Men beating each other senseless is not an ideal situation, but you don't understand where I came from. You don't understand what I'd been through. And they weren't there to protect me when I was being beaten. They weren't there to feed me when I was hungry, but they're there with their judgment now that I'm trying to do the best that I can to make a better world for my son. And as a man, I'm now being told that how I survived isn't good enough. And when we talk to young men now, we understand that their struggles may not be the same struggles that I had 30 years ago, 40 years ago, but their struggles are still their struggles. And we can't judge them. And instead of giving them our judgment, we should give them the support to be better versions of themselves and understand that their interests may not be our interests, but that doesn't make them necessarily wrong or bad.
That's incredibly tough to hear that story. So thank you for sharing it with us. Community and purpose, it sounds like, is what you found in the boxing gym. Boxing
Right.
represents, I think, a lot of things to a lot of people, discipline as well. And so a lot of these young men are in these spaces looking for community. We talk a lot about community on this show, and maybe lack of judgment, or maybe it's judgment in different ways. I don't know. So you can speak this language. Why is it so hard for the Democratic Party to understand that there is a different language and that they need to bring in more people into the party who know how to speak it?
If I had the answer to that, Maya, my bank account would be like this. No, but seriously, the Democratic Party is a complex machine. I do want to pluck out one thing, that we are the Democratic Party. Okay, like each of us, the Democratic Party is composed of us, right? And so it's up to us to unify those voices and to demand this type of a voice to be included in the conversation. And what I've seen is that, unfortunately, folks that require safe spaces also self-appoint themselves as the protectors of people like me.
Hmm.
And I don't know how somebody that can't handle an awkward conversation thinks they're going to come into my community and tell me that they're here to protect me and they know what's best for me. And they're going to make all the decisions to make my life a better place and what's in my best interest without knowing me and without knowing what my interests are. And so I think that until enough people like us get together and speak with a unified voice to say that there's room for everybody in this, and that
Mhm.
prioritizing other interests doesn't deprioritize your
Mhm.
interests. It doesn't mean that whatever group is at the forefront is no longer important to us. It just means that we're equally important, and that all of us are important, and that we have to understand we have to come together to do the best that we can collectively. Because I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of young men, they do, like you said, they go into these gyms, they go into these places for community, and then they have their stupid hats that they put on, and they say that tells the world you're part of something.
Mhm.
That tells everybody that sees you, you belong somewhere.
Mhm.
And that's important for young men. And if you don't come from that background, if you don't come from those types of circumstances, it's really, really hard to conceptualize that. And so a lot of our leadership, when they hear this type of guidance, it's going against their own experience. It's going against their own instincts. And so now they have to trust what they're hearing. And that's difficult for people in general. So for myself, I give leadership some grace, even though I hold them accountable and I speak to them hard truths when
Mhm.
I'm in front of them. I do give them the grace of understanding that they are doing their best, the best they can with the information, the experience that they have.
Yeah, we need a whole lot of understanding from a lot of different angles right now. So I want to shift to what's going on in Florida, because I think it's important to understand. We were talking before the show that Florida, you said, is like a petri dish, if you will, in which we're seeing a lot of different things play out. And a lot of the policies are having consequences right now. And so, I used to live in Florida. So immediately the minute he started terrorizing people coming into the country, when Trump started terrorizing his administration, people were coming to the country. I said, well, that's going to hit tourism in Florida really badly as people are going to decide they don't want to come here. The tariffs are going to hit hard in Florida. And now TPS, temporary protective status. Can you talk about what you're seeing on the ground as far as TPS? Because it feels like a lot of people in that community, in the Venezuelan community, voted for Trump. Am I getting that wrong, or where are people at on that right now?
Oh my God, no, you're not getting that wrong. It's not just the Venezuelan community. It's honestly across the board. I'm going to share a couple stats with you that are super personal to me because I'm Puerto Rican and Cuban. But over his 2020 performance, Trump made an 8% improvement among the Puerto Rican community, which is normally a Democratic voting community, an 11-point improvement among the Cuban community, which he's pretty much at this point got locked down, if not for the damage he's done to himself. But it's up to us to capitalize on that, right? It's up to us to talk to people and to do our absolute best to not finger wag at them, not condescend to them and say, well, you voted for this and now you have to pay the price. Look, 26 is coming. We want to win elections. We want to have better policy. We want to have a democracy. So we need to bring people along with us, right? And we can't just assume that they're going to see this betrayal. Latinos are going to see this betrayal and then they'll go vote for Democrats on their own, because not voting is an option, or the next not Trump candidate may hit them with some misinformation, disinformation that they'll fall into. So it's up to us to make the case. And at Mi Vecino, that's what we've been doing. We've already made over 70,000 phone calls, but it's gotten to where, and I said this to DNC Chair Ken Martin literally 3 days ago, that we can't even retrain our team fast enough on the things that Trump is doing, because they made a motion to get away with the Flores settlement agreement, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a court ruling from almost 30 years ago that says that you cannot separate and detain children from their families for more than 20 days. And if the federal government does do that, it has to provide them with things like food and clean water, clean clothing, legal counsel,
Basics.
American basics. Yeah. That's what that says. And Trump tried to do away with that in 2020 and the court stopped him. If everybody remembers, that's how we got the kids in cages. Y'all remember that? So now we're back and they're trying that again. So we're messaging around that, because to Latinos, family is everything. This betrayal of us is incredibly important, but we have to tie these threads together for people because they're trying to survive and live their lives. And this is what's happening now. Then he removes the protections of Venezuelans, but that applies to other groups as well, not just Venezuelans. And what we're seeing when we talk to people is a lot of confusion, pain, and emotion. They don't know where to direct, and it's up to us to help them find a place to direct it to. But when I think about the big picture, Maya, it sends chills down my spine, the generational damage that's being done. Yeah. Not just to these communities, but to this country, and especially in certain places like Florida. Who are these Venezuelan people? In order to have TPS protections, well, you can't have a criminal record, right? You're paying taxes, but you don't get a lot of the benefits that come from citizenship. These people are majority in the medical field, nurses in a retirement state like Florida. Who's taking care of the grandparents and the elderly and the vulnerable people that come here and they retire and they can't take care of themselves? How much of the economy are we losing from people that are going to be deported, that are choosing to leave, that are scared to go to their appointments, and then by default, not gaining their residency and falling through the process because they're afraid they're going to get snatched up and never see their families again, right? Not to mention the trauma that's being caused to kids whose parents never come home, who also get locked up and put in, and they want to stick in these cages with little to nothing that they want to provide to them, and they act like they're not human beings. What those children are going to go through that and carry that moment with them through the rest of their lives, the generational damage that's being done. And keep in mind, these are people that do not have criminal records. They contribute to the economy. They're hardworking people. And we are seeing America become crueler and crueler, and it's enabled by this government. And no one is really standing up in a unified way, in a collective way, to try to tell people there's an alternative. And this is what we need to see from the Democratic Party. Until they get off their ass and figure out basics like that, how we can tell people what we will try to do to protect them and help them, they're going to continue to lose, and we're collectively going to continue to lose.
Thank you for saying it like that and with that much energy, because right now I'm seeing communities step up and protect their communities, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of Democratic leadership doing it on a consistent basis. And so within the community, are people seeing the fact that, for example, Ukrainians didn't lose their TPS? And are they asking, why is this happening to our community? And then are people who are not at risk of being deported, people in the community of different walks of life, are they going, oh, this is actually hurting me too? I may not be at risk of deportation, but this is hurting me. Are we seeing the kind of come to Jesus moment?
I gotta tell you, unfortunately, not yet. It almost seems as if disenfranchising and discriminating against Latinos is the one bipartisan thing left in this country, because it's a very casual thing. Think about the number of headlines you've seen, Maya. The Democratic Party has a Latino problem, has a Cuban problem, exchange that for some other group. What group have you seen a headline about that about other than Latinos? Nobody. There'd be blood in the streets. They'd never. They'd never. You have Gavin Newsom in California moving more to the right on taking away health benefits from from people. But of course, it's going to be people that look like me and not people that look like that. They're not going to. And the excuse is they want to balance a budget, right? And I don't want to say that's an excuse, because it is a valid concern. But why is the one place they want to take they want to be they implement austerity measures here with this group that's already being vilified? Right. And so what we're seeing is this collective voice that's really starting to come together to tell people that look like me, that look like my son, who's the reason why I do this work, you're not wanted here. You're expendable and you're disposable until we need to dispose of you. But until then, continue to work at your own risk, pay your taxes. And if you get a text message from the Democratic Party, rush us your $3 donation.
Yeah, that's not the winning strategy, right?
No, it's not.
And you have a strategy that is working as far as reaching people, and we haven't talked about it yet, but it's not just tied to elections. It's year round, from what I understand.
Right, right. And there's a lot of people that talk about year-round work, and it's been talked about for a long time. This is work that we actually do. And you can always tell the people that actually do it because they look and sound like me. It's hard and it's difficult. And if you don't understand how to balance the burnout that we've experienced with staff, right? What tactics you're using and when, because you can't just knock on everyone's door every day of the year. What are you even saying to them? The logistics that go into this, right? To prevent staff fatigue, voter fatigue, and how we tie strands together. And so if we, a great example is after the election last year, over $1 billion was spent by Democrats. Who knows how many hundreds of millions went into the pockets of consultants for us to take a giant L and get mollywopped in front of the entire world. And then on November 15th, most of those people are terminated. Except for at the higher level, they're almost never terminated. They get very generous compensation packages and benefits. But most people are on the organizing team. Those folks are terminated. They're not doing any work. They're not campaigning. They forget about people and they're all on holiday. At Mi Vecino, we were feeding families. Thanksgiving is right after the election. And we helped provide meals to over 3,000 families in Central Florida. Okay, what comes after Thanksgiving? Well, it's Christmas, and Toys for Tots and other toy drives are being held by local municipal electeds, and that's the kind of thing that we do. But where is your local party? Where is our national party? Where are those folks? They're nowhere to be seen. And those are the kinds of things that we're not getting from them. We're not hearing from them, and they're not visible. Now, when you come into a year like this one, the first thing we want to do is really understand what happened last year, because even folks like us, with all of our experience, we start to see these results and it's almost unfathomable. Some of them we saw coming, right? Everyone was saying Florida was in play and it was going to be going blue. We forecast back in July of 24 that Trump would win Florida by 13 points plus, and he won it by 13.4%. You can't get more on the money than that, right? What we do is we examine the unexpected, which was the massive turnout in this state. Why? Start to dig into what people saw, what they prioritized, and see quantitatively and qualitatively what happened so we know what we're going to be doing this year. And a great example of these two minds that can exist in a voter is I was personally talking to an NPA Latina, and NPA is a no party affiliated voter, not Democrat, not Republican. I won't go through the whole thing, but one of the first issue that she said her priority issue was abortion. She was disgusted by what Republicans were doing on abortion. This was incredibly important to her. She could not stand it. We go through some other questions and it's very conversational. I get down to candidate choice. She's voting Republican. Right. So and then now let me show you. This is where.
How do you stay calm when that happens? What do you do?
Because I put my organizer, researcher, I want to be successful hat on and say, okay, we do year-round organizing. So when this campaign ends, lady, I'm going to be back. Which means I don't want to burn this bridge today because I may need your vote again tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to come at you from a no judgment place and try to understand why this is your perspective. And so I start to dig in. I said, well, does it seem a little bit inconsistent if abortion is your number one issue and the Republicans are really, you're really disgusted with the way that they're approaching it, but yet you're willing to support them and vote for them? And what she said was, yeah, but at my age, I won't be having any abortions, and I'm really concerned about the economy, and I have bills to pay. And so, just trying to process that, but also I'm at a doorstep, not in a think tank, right? So you got to be quick. And so I said, okay, so would you say that you're socially more progressive and aligned with Democrats, but fiscally you align more with Republicans, and so that's why you're going to support them? And I know that statement kind of may not make sense, but what I'm trying to do is get the voter to think I do align with Democrats on some things, right? I'm going to vote this way today, but I align with them on some things. That way, the next time somebody in a blue Mi Vecino shirt comes by, they remember they had a good conversation with us. We know what we know about them, and we continue to try to move them towards where we want to be. Then what we take away from that conversation is this fucking impression that the Republicans are good on the economy. Sorry if I can't say that.
You can definitely say that.
Okay, sorry.
Absolutely say that.
It's like, why?
Exactly.
How? Where does this idea come from? Because it's certainly not based in fact. So it has to be based in something. And we want to know why, and we want to know where, so we can begin to try to counter that and nip that in the bud. Because people see the Republicans as what they are, but they're voting for them anyway because they're voting on these kitchen table survival issues, and they feel like it's their survival that they're voting for.
So, and now that they should be theoretically seeing that Republicans aren't so great on the economy, unless Republicans are able to message that they are, despite what people are actually seeing. And it seems like that's what Republicans are good at, right? Is getting people to ignore what they can see with their own eyes, what they can feel with their own pocketbooks. So do you think now that, and I love the way these conversations take place, because they do seem like they're community building, not just community organizing. Like, I like this idea that you're like, we're going to talk again. She's going to see the blue shirt again. And she's not going to see it as, oh, this is an enemy who's trying to convince me of something that's going to be harmful to me and my family. Right. This is just a conversation with a nice blue shirt guy. I love that. So taking that and expanding it now, because you're talking about Mi Vecino now is in Maine, and where else?
Arizona. We're looking at Texas and New Mexico as well, and just building our collaboration with just like larger groups.
So how do you grow something like this when it is the burnout is real? These are conversations that I ask myself every day. How do we keep going? How do you approach it? And then this is like just for everybody. I would love to this advice for everybody. How are you staying in the game? How are you? Because I think right now a lot of people are starting to feel burnout.
The same exact way you walk a mile, Maya. You put one foot in front of the other, and you just keep doing that. You take it one day at a time, and you just keep going. I wish I had some magic answer, but that's just how it is. The fact of the matter is that this is hard. It is hard, and we can do hard things. Okay, I talk to people that are in leadership positions that talk about the stress of their schedule and the overwhelming demands on their time. And I'm like, bro, we're all busy at this level. I'm here and you're here. You know why? Because we're both equally busy. Okay. Otherwise, we wouldn't both be at this thing making time for it if we weren't both equally important and busy in some kind of a way. Right.
Mhm.
So we find the time because, okay, you know who else is busy? Someone that's working 3 jobs to stay broke. Okay. A
Thank you.
single parent that's scared that they won't be able to buy apple juice for their baby is pretty damn busy. Okay, so I'm sorry, but I have no sympathy for you for how busy you are because the world is filled with busy people who have far less. And
Mhm.
so the fact of the matter is that we have to find ways to continue to drive forward because the alternative is what we are currently seeing, right?
Yeah.
And what people remember, like the woman at the front door, they remember more about how you made them feel than about kind of what you said and how you said it or what you did. You know, they remember how you made them feel. And when you make people feel judged, when you make them feel alienated and vilified, they remember that. When you make people feel accepted and like they're part of something, they remember that. And at Mi Vecino, we strive to do that because that will carry you a long way. And so we have to just do this one door at a time, one person at a time. And if we can work together and collaborate, truly collaborate in a non-judgmental way,
Mhm.
we can spread that message and we can do more with less. At Mi Vecino, we've done more with less for years. So we're walking proof that you can, in fact, organize year round if you prioritize doing so, because that's just literally how it works. And we've done it on a shoestring budget. I hear the tens of millions of dollars that other organizations are raising, and I'm just thinking, what do you even do with that money? What do
Mhm.
you even like? I can't even, it's unfathomable to me. Like, what would you even do? I'm like, I could organize multiple states with half of your budget.
I was like, hear that fundraiser? Send Alex the money, please. Send him the money. Well, no, because when you talk about how people make you feel, every time I talk to you, I feel energized. I feel hope. I feel possibility. And I'm sure a lot of people listening right now are feeling the same. So I want to know, who gives you hope? Who are you seeing out there as far as leadership goes that's giving you hope?
Man, I gotta tell you, Maya, and I'm not saying like people like you that make space for people like me, because I'm not everyone's cup of tea. All right. I'm not everyone's cup of your tea, but if I am your cup of tea, I'm probably your favorite cup of tea. People do tend to like me, right? If they like me, or they hate me and want me dead. It's usually one or the other, right? But it's a lot of it is like normal people. I really don't look up to a lot of folks just because we're all kind of equal and the same. But individually, I have great experiences with great people. Like for example, the concierge at this meeting that I was at, this concierge, this young guy, I saw this guy and he reminded me of me and he was helping me through a situation and he's telling me how he would go about removing the bottom edge from a razor because the airport won't let you travel with a straight razor and I use that to shave. And I'm like, dog, you are telling on yourself right now. Where were you locked up? And he's just like, and he was just like, how did you know? But it's like, well, how do you think I know? I know prison hacks where I hear them because I've been locked up. Okay. And so we have a conversation. And like, it's like that guy, his name is Justin. I'm going to remember, and I got a bad memory from the years of boxing. I remember Justin for a long time, right? There are a lot of good people out there with good hearts. The world is just truly not an evil place. And a lot of even these, MAGA people and all these other people, a lot of them they're that way talking to a screen. Okay, they don't talk to Alex Berrios that way, and it's not just because of the size of me and the tattoos and all of that. Because they don't talk to our organizers that way either. Because you talk to people with dignity and respect, it'll take you a long way. And it's funny when we knock on their doors. I actually had someone say this to me. And again, keep in mind, I'm not just someone that sits in offices. I do this myself too. Said to me, I don't go talk to Democrats because they're crazy. If I knock on their doors, they'll shoot me. And I'm like, bro, they think the same thing about you. Literally say the same exact thing about you. And so everyone thinks that about everyone else. And it's that really motivates me and inspires me to keep going, knowing that we are so much more alike than we think we are. And and then asking the questions like, how do we find those strands from here, strand from here, and weave it together and make a rope, right? Because then we'll be a lot more stronger. That just keeps pushing me to keep going.
Alex, I have to say it's one of my favorite answers ever. And throughout this entire conversation, I've felt both the urge to cry and to smile, and I've gotten goosebumps because you're 100% right. It's the everyday person. It's the people that we meet every day. Like we are the ones who are doing it. And I think sometimes the learned helplessness or just the immensity of it all makes us feel powerless. And when we're in conversation with each other, and in community, that's when we really truly feel our power and can help expand it. So I'm so glad that we were able to have this conversation today. Please tell me where everybody can find you, where they can find Mi Vecino, where they can donate, all of that. Where?
So look, I'm an organizer. I do research. I don't do the fundraising stuff or the internet. We have a TikTok. It's like Vecinos USA at Vecinos USA, and we're on Instagram. And our website is vecinosusa.com.
Okay.
You can look at some of the work that we do and some of the forward-thinking modern techniques that we use that the Democratic Party needs to start implementing as well. You could check us out there. But yeah, I wanted to do this and just talk with you and have other people hear these ideas and understand that we can all be from different backgrounds, but we've got each other's back. Because when I say Maya, I've got your back and I'll fight for you, I think I don't mean anything about $3. I've got your back and I'll fight for you. You know exactly what that means.
I know exactly what it means. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us. And I'm going to have you back on again so we can chat soon.
Thank you, Maya.
Thanks. Guys, I feel energized. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say it's important that we build community and we build coalitions and we understand that we are all in this together. We're all feeling the consequences of it together. So resisting the urge to do the whole fuck around and find out thing, no, because we're all finding out. So thanks again for joining me for another show. Please check out all the rest of the Lincoln Square Media shows. Make sure you check out Alex Berrios on Mi Vecino and send money, organize, donate, do all of the things. It's all important. Every little bit counts. So thanks so much. And I will see you next week on Punching Up.